Good morning and welcome back to the Triathlon Devs YouTube channel. We are in transition and we are ready. I bumped into the lovely Caroline, who I met at Burley, who I made the mistake of going, yeah, you registered your intention for qualification. And now I've got an extra person to compete against. How are you feeling this morning, Caroline?
Yeah, I'm nervous.
Nervous?
But, yeah, excited too.
So we've just found out that the swim's been put back to 300 metres. What do you feel about that?
Kind of good and bad, so need a bit of time to get into it. But I don't know, maybe they just crack on with the rest of it, so it's good.
I have to say, I'm just happy they've not made it a duathlon. We think it's because of the air temperature, so they've pushed the start back by half an hour, which is a little bit annoying because now we've got 30 minutes more to kill being nervous, and they've shortened the swim to 300 metres, which is kind of good, but it takes me probably 200 metres to stop hyperventilating, so I'm going to have 100 metres of decent swimming, or maybe I just don't do any, maybe I just hyperventilate from the start and then have that long run. So yeah. So, I think we're ready. We've got a helmet, we've got a number, we've got trainers. I'm not sure we're going to need the sunglasses today, therefore for train. We've got shoes on the bike. Yeah, it's all ready. I'm nervous. I don't want to do this. I don't want to get in the sea. Yeah. Right, I'll catch up with you shortly.
Go on, Debs! Go on, Debs! Go on, Debs! Come on, you're ahead of Caroline. Go on, Debs. Chance it. Go on, Debs. Come on, Debs! God! Come on, Debs.
Mechanical. Lost about 3 minutes. That is the Sleep When You're Dead Barry Island 2024 Sprint Triathlon done. Thought I'd do a little bit of a race breakdown. Finished a good couple of hours ago now. We've spent a fortune on the fun fair with Amelia and then come back to the caravan after plying her with ice cream to say thank you for being there. If we start from the beginning, the swim got shortened. They said it was shortened to a 300 metre swim. I've got it as 650 odd yards. Now that I did start my Garmin at the start banner, so it did involve a fair run down to the sea and run back to the arch again. But it was definitely more than 300 metres. They started off saying 300 metres and then they actually moved the boys out a little bit more. So I'd be interested to know how much it actually was. But that actually went really well. You were allowed to get in and acclimatise, which really worked for me. You could get in about half an hour before the race, get rid of that cold water shock and then get back out again. You did then have like at least a good 20 minutes wait before you got back in, but it definitely helped me. My overall swim time was 11:08 and that worked out at 141 per 100 yards, which was pretty good going for me. It basically went in a square rather than a triangle, so it's probably about 150 metres to the first buoy. That took a little bit of getting into. I was doing unilateral breathing at that point, just breathing every other stroke, but then by the time I got to the first turn buoy, and turn right. Then I managed to get into bilateral breathing, so I felt like I had a pretty decent swim, to be honest. I was a little bit gutted that that swim was cut short. At the time I was quite happy, but when I was in the water and it wasn't as bad as I thought, I was a little bit disappointed that the swim got cut short, because I think I would have gained a little bit more time on some people then. The run from the beach to T1 was absolutely awful. Those 32 steps straight out the water was an absolute killer. I did end up having to brisk walk up them. It is then downhill from that point, so I did then run into transition, so made up a little bit of time with that. My official T1 time was 1 minute 14 and I won T1. Yay! Shame it doesn't count for a little bit more. Out onto the bike course, had a really good mount, did a flying mount that went without any hitches. First couple of laps of the bike were absolutely fantastic. I think it was averaging about 17.8 mile an hour. I was breathing pretty hard on the start of the bike after that run from T1. So it did take me probably about half the first lap of the bike before I could settle my breathing down and breathe properly. But the wind didn't feel too bad. It was a little bit windier than we thought it was going to be initially, but you didn't feel it too much, to be honest. So I was flying on the first couple of laps, averaging about 17.8 mile an hour. Unfortunately, the turnaround point, it was marked as being at an island, and when I got there for the first lap, it wasn't. It was just before the island, so I absolutely had to slam on my brakes and go round that, because it was shorter than what it was meant to be. I came into that dead turn on the third lap, and I'm not quite sure what happened, but basically my rear wheel just completely jammed up, couldn't move it at all. I'm not sure whether it was the brake. There's really not a lot of clearance between my tyre and the frame on my rear wheel, so I'm not quite sure whether the heavy braking had kind of altered the skewer position or something, and that had then led the wheel to be rubbing on the frame, or whether it was actually on the bike. But I couldn't even push it. It was absolutely rigid, couldn't move it. So I had about 4 minutes, had to get off the bike, had a complete panic, didn't really know what to do with it. In the end, a very nice guy, Marshall, ran over to me and helped me. He just undid my rear wheel. And then that seemed to sort of fix it, and I carried on. But I lost a whole heap of time just from being stationary. I averaged 17.6 mile an hour on the bike, and that included being stationary for a long time, so I would have been well over 18 mile an hour. So I was really, really good with that. So not only do you lose that time where you're stationary, but then it also takes you a bit of time to get back up to speed. I was panicking, I was breathing heavy, your head completely goes with it. And I knew that I'd pretty much thrown away at that point any chance that I had a qualifying. So that was quite gutting, really, because I felt that the bike was going to be really strong for me. Came into T2, had a cracking transition, did a really good flying dismount, which hopefully Mr. Kerry filmed this time, and I won T2 as well. What was my T2 time? 40 seconds was my T2 time, so super chuffed with that again. Then I went out onto the run. If I'm honest, my head had already gone a bit by this point. I knew I couldn't qualify, and I was proper, not having a strop, but I was proper disheartened with it. Got out onto the run. That hill that goes around the headland to begin with is much worse than what I thought it would be, particularly coming straight off the bike. And there's 2 laps of that. So my first mile was pretty slow. It was 8.5 minute miles, and then came back round for the second lap. The second lap up the hill was awful as well. Ended up with my second mile being 9.03 minute miles, and by that point my head had gone, and I was just there was nobody around me that I needed to chase in terms of making any difference to positions, and my last mile was something like 8.43 minute mile as well. All in all, that brought me home in 1 hour 24.37, which I'm pretty disappointed with. Position wise, I was 7th in my age group. Unfortunately, 4 of the people in the 40 to 44 age group, the age group below me that had registered their intention, all 4 of them were way faster than me as well, so they've nicked most of the qualifying slots for next year, but overall in terms of qualifying slots, I think it puts me in 10th, which is really, really disappointing. I did end up miles off. I think I worked it out, and I needed to be about 10 minutes faster overall to get in those qualifying slots. Those 40 to 44 age groupers were really, really rapid. Overall times, looking at it, the winner of the 40 to 44 age group, she did it in 1 hour 8 minutes. So the standard of the field was really, really high, with it being the Welsh Championships. So even if I hadn't have had that mechanical, which I think it's hard to know exactly how much it cost me, but somewhere between 3 and 4 minutes, if not more, with the psychological aspect of it. But even without that, I wouldn't have got close to those qualifying slots with the run that I had. I think my run possibly might have been a bit better if my head had been in a better space. Say at that point I knew that I wasn't going to qualify. Take that forward, got to think about the positives with it. It's a good learning experience. It's my first ever sea swim. The swim was better than what I thought it was going to be. I was actually cycling really, really well at that point. I think I would have averaged 18 mile an hour, which is good for me. And I know where I am in terms of I need to find like at least 2.5-3 minutes on the run, really. Actually, I don't know what the course profile is for Dorney Lakes. I'm hoping that the run might be a bit flatter, but yeah, so I've got to go back to the drawing board, get some more power on the bike sessions, and it's the running off the bike that I'm struggling with, the same as what it was at Burley. So I've really got to work on that. So yeah, so that's rammed it home, you know, kind of where I am. You know, I am disappointed and I'm not. I always said, you know, I'd never thought I was going to qualify from this race because of the sea swim. That was probably, apart from the transitions, that was probably the best part of it. But yeah, you know, mechanicals happened. I'm going to divorce Mark now because he's my mechanic, and of course it's all his fault. It's nothing to do with my racing. The only thing we think is really narrow clearance that I've got. We've swapped tyres, and it really only just clears the frame. So I think the slightest movement with the skewer and the wheel, it's just making it catch on the frame. So I think what we are going to do is go back and put my old tyres back on to my Vitus with it, just so, because that's the 3rd time now that I've been out and I've had that problem with them catching. The last time it was brakes, but I say this time I think it was actually the tyre on the frame. Had super good fun racing my friend Caroline. She ended up coming in just 1 position above me, although she was about 6 minutes faster than me. So I was 2 minutes faster than her out the swim. I was faster than her in T1 and T2, but she'd really improved since she'd done Burley. She'd obviously really practiced at that. I think if I hadn't have had that mechanical on the bike, I think I would have beat her on the bike I think I would have come in before her. But she ran a 22 something for the 5k, so she was way faster than me on the 5k. So I think she would have probably beat me by at least a minute anyway. But yeah, but well done to Caroline. It was really nice meeting up with her down here, and having a bit of supportive banter at the start. On the plus side, I have a really cool Sleep When You're Dead medal. It's worth doing it just for that, so I'm glad I finished. And this is a bottle opener. How cool is that? And it goes quite nicely. I mean, I don't like beer, but they've teed up, All or Nothing Events have teed up with the VOG brewery, and they've brought out a special Sleep When You're Dead beer. So that's going in the fridge for Mark to consume later on. Right then, Amelia, what rewards did you get for being super good and getting up at 5 a.m. and standing around in the rain? Hot chocolate, yeah. And then what did you have to eat after the race?
Ice cream.
Double ice cream. What have you spent your pocket money on?
I've got a diamond.
Yeah.
Just like throwing your water in the water to each other, and a yo-yo.
A yo-yo. What did we do after you went round the shops?
Fun.
Fun fair in the rain. Did you go on lots of rides?
Yeah.
Did Daddy go on any of them?
No.
Yeah, no, because Daddy'd be sick. Thank you so much for getting up at 5 o'clock this morning and coming out when it was dark, cold and wet. Jasper had his breakfast at 5 a.m. and then went back to sleep again. Mr. Kerry's had a very strenuous day spectating. Yeah. He's having a power nap. Thanks for getting up with me nice and early, babes. I appreciate you getting up at 5 a.m. on a Sunday and standing round in the rain. That's the race done and dusted then. Not quite what I came here for, but you know what? It was a really nice race. I really enjoyed it. Glad that I've got my first sea swim over and done with. Onwards and upwards to Eton Dorney. Right, we can chill out for the next few days now. Hopefully we're having curry for tea tonight, and I'm going to have a couple of ciders to celebrate or commiserate. I don't know which way round it is. Thank you for watching. If you haven't already, please like and subscribe. See me next time when I'm going to get straight back into my triathlon training and build towards Dorney Lakes.